in claim, but they do have 2 million for all claim. So it would be just changing it from 2 million to 1 million for each claim, and then 2 million for all claims. I think we've done that in the past for others, so I didn't see it as a large request, but those were the only two changes if you want to leave it on consent.
Okay, so if we leave it, Council, are you okay with leaving it on consent then? Are you all right with those changes?
Yes.
It's all right with me.
So it seems like that it's pretty much agreeable. If that's the case, do we need to formally amend anything in the motion of
No, I think we're going over it now, and I think the document's already been amended. So
okay. All right, great. All right, so with that, then we'll go ahead and leave 9.8 on consent with everybody's agreement to that. Okay. Seeing nothing else, we are on to reports and/or meetings and conferences attended by the council members.
Yes, sir.
Council, yes. Councilor Wade.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I just wanted to acknowledge an event that happened there at the Water and Ice here a couple of weeks ago with the Streets Don't Love You Back organizer Rob Boyd and his wife Lucinda. It was really nice to see all of us there participating and supporting the community organization as well as the community business at the same time. And I was very happy to be a part of that. And so I'm waiting for the next one again, so we can do something there again or what have you. But just want to thank the members of council who were able to attend and members of the community that were able to attend as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I was having a good time until Chief Stahl tried to shoot me with an ice cream scoop. But other than that, I had a great time. So, anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Chapados.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge that on Saturday the 15th, I was able to be present for the exchange of ownership of our Zephyr from the county to the Historical Society. I'd like to recognize Paul Shirk, the president of the Historical Society. So we're glad to have that asset here in Maricopa. We're excited to see what you'll do with it.
Anyone else at this time like to talk about what they've been up to? Yes, Vice Mayor Brown.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to briefly discuss our Lower Santa Cruz River Alliance meeting on June the 22nd. Our city manager sent us emails explaining much of what's going to be going on, and I can say there was a great turnout. In fact, it was the largest stakeholder meeting I can recall in 8 years of going to these meetings. Both our local regional, Colonel Gibbs was there along with his staff, as well as Colonel Ellicott of the Memphis staff. And of course, the issues of milestones, FEMA mapping, and cost sharing, in addition to several others. And of course, you might want to expand upon that, your report. But it's an ongoing process, and we're moving, but moving very slowly.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time? Okay. That'll take us to item 3.3. We're going to hear a presentation about the service line warranty program available to National League of Cities and Towns members through the Utility Service Partners. And I think that mic is on. You may want to make sure. So, if not, we'll hit the button push.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Sounds great. Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here this evening. My name is Ashley Shaworski, and I represent the National League of Cities Service Line Program. Our program is the only one that is endorsed by the National League of Cities, but also here in Arizona by the League of Arizona Cities and Towns as well. The company, though, that I actually work for is called Utility Service Partners, and we administer the program. And we are a Better Business Bureau business with an A+ rating, as well as we did win the Torch Award for Marketplace Ethics from the Better Business Bureau. So this is something that we are very proud of and are always striving to maintain that high level of ethical standards while conducting business. But what our program really is designed to do is to help address the public policy issue of our aging infrastructure. We know that communities all across the U.S. really are doing their part to either upgrade or maintain their public infrastructure, but the homeowners portion of these lines were kind of being forgotten about. So that's actually why the National League of Cities went out and did research. They wanted to make a program like ours readily and easily available to cities and towns all across the United States. So they went out, did the research on your behalf, and we were the company that they did choose to provide this program. So what we would do is we would partner with the city in order to make our completely voluntary program available to your residents. And we provide homeowners with optional protection on their external water lines, external sewer lines, as well as in-home plumbing. And we provide our services with a complete turnkey approach for the city, where we handle all the aspects of the program, the marketing, billing, claims management, and customer service. And there's absolutely no cost to the city if you choose to participate in the program, and the city would actually receive an incremental revenue stream for their participation as well. What I always find to be the biggest benefit of our program is that it really just helps to raise awareness. Pretty much every community that I speak with, I hear the same type of thing, that most residents don't realize that these lines are something that they are responsible for until they actually have that issue. And then either the city or the utility is left being that bearer of bad news, letting that resident know that this is something that you guys do not cover and that's not covered by their homeowner's insurance. So I always kind of think of our program as a free public awareness campaign, because all of the residents within the city would actually receive a letter in the mail. And the beginning of that letter really is just an educational piece, where it lets homeowners know that these lines are something that they are responsible for, and that the city has partnered with us in order to make this voluntary program available to them. So even if someone chooses not to enroll, at least in the future, they are well aware that this is their responsibility, and that the city really tried to take a proactive approach at helping to educate them of this. Also, it really can give your residents peace of mind, because they know for just a few dollars a month, if they choose, they're able to transfer the risk of these lines onto us, a reputable company that is not only endorsed by the National League of Cities, but also the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. And if they were to have an issue, they just give us a call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we would actually dispatch a local licensed plumber or contractor to do the repair. So that is another huge benefit of our program, that we only use local contractors for all of our work. And we do that for many reasons, but mainly we want to keep as much money here within your city's local economy as possible, as well as your local contractors are familiar with the city's local codes, and we'll make sure to do the work up to your standards as well as ours, which includes getting all of the proper permits to do the repairs. And what actually happens if we were to partner with Maricopa, we would really let you be as much or as little involved in this contractor selection as you would like, where some of our partners will provide us a list of contractors that they're familiar with or already working with. Some will provide all of the licensed contractors, and some cities want to stay out of it as much as possible. Really, either way works for us, but with all of our contractors, we go through a detailed vetting process before they can join our network, where we make sure that they are licensed, they have the proper amount of insurance, they don't have any open complaints with the Better Business Bureau, as well as we conduct background checks and drug screenings. We always want to make sure that it's someone that your residents feel comfortable with coming to their home, as well as potentially inside of their home. And as for our coverage, we do offer 3 completely separate and voluntary programs. We offer an external sewer line coverage, external water line coverage, as well as an in-home plumbing. The 2 external products are set up very similarly, where we would cover those lines wherever they become the resident's responsibility, all the way to where they would daylight inside of the home. So if a resident were to have an issue, whether it was a broken, cracked, leaking pipe, a tree root issue, a clog that just needs cleared out, really anything that impedes the flow of those lines, a resident just gives us a call, we send out a local contractor, and what they receive for their coverage is up to $8,500 towards each and every repair incident. So this is actually something that greatly separates us from other companies out there, is that ours is always on a per incident basis. So we would never have an annual or a lifetime limit, as well as we never limit the number of incidents or claims that someone can have in a calendar year. So again, it's always up to that $8,500 per incident, and we never have any type of service fee or deductible. We would not want a $50 or $100 service fee to deter someone from actually giving us a call and getting their issue taken care of. And as for our third product, it really picks up where the other 2 leave off, and it was kind of developed by request of our current municipal partners, where it really was the missing piece of the puzzle. And this would be the in-home plumbing. And this would cover any of the water, sewer, or drain lines that are actually in the home after the point of entry. It also would include any lines that could be embedded under a slab, as well as basement floor, and coverage for the repair of clogged toilets. And this is very similar, where there's never a service fee or deductible, no annual or lifetime limit, no limit on number of claims that someone can have in a calendar year. And for the in-home plumbing, it is always up to $3,000 towards each and every repair incident. And we really have come to find that when someone chooses to enroll in one of our programs, they're typically a little bit more proactive about getting their issue taken care of, because everyone is always nervous to call that contractor because they never know what it's going to charge, so that they at least know the cost of determining their issue and getting it taken care of is not coming out of their own pocket. As for the revenue portion for the city, what the city does receive in return for their partnership with us is actually 50 cents per month per paid warranty contract. So essentially, if a resident did choose to enroll in all three products, the water, the sewer, as well as the in-home plumbing, then the city could receive up to $1.50 per month per household, and that is paid to you in the form of a revenue every January. And a lot of our current partners choose to do different things with this. Obviously, that you can do anything that you like. Some just put it back into the general fund and use for the public infrastructure needs. But also some of our partners have used it to help low-income residents that may be having trouble paying a utility bill from month to month, as well as a lot of them may use it for different community events. I know one uses it for their annual fall festival. So it's really however the city may choose. And I know the big thing that everyone always wants to know is how we market our program. So we only ever market by direct mail. So you never have to worry about us calling door to door, anything like that. We standardly have 3 mail campaigns per year in the spring, the fall, and the winter. And the only reason why we have those 3 is because we offer 3 products. Each of our mail campaigns is always geared towards one specific product at a time. And the reason why we do that is to limit any confusion. We always want residents to be well aware that these are separate products, that they never have to choose any of them or any combination of them. So we always keep the marketing to one product at a time, but that never deters anyone from giving us a call or going to our website and choosing whichever, if any, of the products that they would like at any time. Also, we would never mail anything out to your residents unless we did have your review and approval prior. So before each and every mail campaign, we actually send you a copy of our marketing letter for your review. Once we get the approval, we give you the exact mail date, and if for some reason we did not receive the approval, we would never mail to your residents for that campaign. We always want you to know exactly what your homeowners are receiving, as well as have input on that message, and you do have complete control over if and when those letters do go out to your residents. Our standard marketing letter, the beginning really is that educational piece where it lets homeowners know that these lines are something that they are responsible for and that you as a city has partnered with us in order to introduce this voluntary program. But it does clearly state that we are a separate company providing this service, as well as it is always voluntary for a resident. It does go out with the city's either logo or letterhead, and then it's typically either signed by an elected official, appointed official, or just the city as a whole introducing the program. But the bottom of that letter has all of our information, our logo, our phone number to call with questions or to enroll, same thing with our website for more information or to sign up, or they can return the bottom of the form directly to us. So really the city's only involvement actually is that introductory piece. We know you have enough going on here. We don't want to add anything to your plate. So it's just that introductory piece, but once someone chooses to enroll, all of that correspondence is directly between us and them. And really, once we partner with the community, we try to be as transparent as possible, where all of our municipal partners actually get access to an online partner portal. And this would give all of you here access to a lot of good real-time information, where you can log on there at any time and see the number of residents enrolled, the number of residents enrolled in each product, as well as the number of claims filed. It also lets you keep track of that accruing royalty throughout the calendar year. But what I find most important is it actually gives you access to our customer satisfaction surveys. So every resident that files a claim receives a survey, and everyone that is returned, good, bad, or indifferent, is uploaded onto that portal. That way you can log on there at any time and take a look at that. It not only allows you to keep track of our internal customer service in my office when someone calls to file a claim, but also of that local contractor. Since they are the face of our company, we always just really want to make sure they're doing the work up to our standards, as well as yours, and if there is any issue, we really can work to rectify that as quickly as possible. And now to date, we are partnered with over 400 municipalities all across the United States, and we do have 22 city and town partners here in the state of Arizona. And I know I've rambled on to all of you for the last 10 minutes or so, so I'm sure you may have some specific questions as well for me.
Thank you, Ashley, for the presentation. Council, questions? Yes, Councilmember Chapados.
Ashley, thanks for that presentation. I do have a couple questions. What is a premium for each of the services if they want to do them individually, and is there a discount for bundling?
Sure. So for the external sewer line coverage, it is $7.75 per month. For the external water line coverage, it is $5.75 per month. And for the in-home plumbing, it is $9.99 per month. There is not a multi-product discount, but if someone chooses to sign up and pay annually, they do receive about a $5 per product discount. But that never locks anyone into an annual agreement with us. It is always month to month for a resident, no matter how they choose to pay. And if they want to cancel for any reason at any time, they give us a call and we would refund any unused premium.
Okay. We have a multitude of seasonal residents here. How do you work with third-party, like property management companies or a neighbor that happens to be watching a home? When you get a call request for service for repair, does it have to come from the policyholder? Can it be a third-party person? How do you work that?
Sure, a third-party person could file a claim. It just has to be the homeowner or property owner that actually purchases the warranty, because they are the ones that actually own that line, so they have to be purchasing it on their behalf.
Okay, but once that policy is obtained by the homeowner, you can have somebody call and say, I represent such and such a homeowner, we have a need for repair or whatever.
Correct. And we have Show Low as our partner. They have a very similar population where people go there in the winter for skiing. So a lot of their residents are only there part-time as well. So that's actually when I find our program to actually be the most popular, because people don't want to worry about their property when they're not there. They know they can make one call, a reputable contractor is going to come and fix it, and then they bill us for the service.
Okay. My last question has to do with follow-up customer service, not necessarily from the survey perspective, but you'll find that the residents of Maricopa have a high expectation when it comes to customer service and their utility service providers. How do you deal with once a claim is filed and a repair is made, and then that homeowner may have additional questions or some concerns, or they were not satisfied? How do you handle that outside of the physical survey itself?
Sure. We actually, every one of our municipal partners is assigned an account manager. So if there's any ever issue with a claim, that account manager would be specifically assigned to Maricopa that would work with you, would work with that resident to make sure that we handle that. Our call center is located in our office, so typically they're right down the hall from me. If there is any issue, they're quick to let me know. So it's nice that we're all in one area. We know all of them, and they really let us know if there is any type of issue with the customer, as well as typically we know well before those surveys go out if there is any type of issue, and we've already taken care of it.
Okay. And how do you deal with complaints about vendors? Let's say someone's not happy, or something comes to your attention that they're operating outside the legal parameters and the specifications that you require. How do you deal with maybe separating relationships with a vendor?
Sure. With a contractor?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is part of that vetting process, where we make sure that they have all of that up-to-date documentation. If it ever comes to our attention that they are not in compliance with our roles, then they would not be in the network anymore. As well as if we are getting a lot of complaints about that contractor, we either will lessen their workload or we will remove them from our network. They're the face of our company, and we always really want to make sure they're doing the work to our standards, if not a higher level. So we really watch that closely.
So being the small town, big city that Maricopa is, there's a lot of us that have a favorite vendor or contractor that we use on a regular basis. When someone files a claim, do they have input in the selection of who that contractor will be? Like if I know such and such a contractor, I'd like him to come to my house. Do they have that option?
As long as they're in our network, they can request any of them. And if a contractor's not in our network and they want to be, they can always reach out to us, and we will go through that vetting process, and if they qualify, they can join the network.
How long does that vetting process usually take?
It varies depending on how responsive that contractor is in getting that documentation to us and going through the drug screening and the background check process. I'd say typically 60 days is about the average, but it kind of varies on how responsive that contractor is.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Councilmember Wade.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Pre-existing conditions, is there any provisions that talk about that, or any policy or procedures that you have for something that might be pre-existing? Would it still go through if the homeowner had a complaint but wasn't aware of that pre-existing condition as well?
We do not go out and inspect the lines, so everyone that is, or resides within the city is eligible to enroll. We do not have a pre-existing condition limitation. They do just, at the time of enrollment, certify that their line is in proper working order, but that is on the honor system, so we really have no way of knowing. There is a 30-day waiting period, though, when they sign up, so that kind of eliminates some of that, but there's no way. We know it happens, but there's no way of us, knowing that. You're welcome.
Other questions? Thoughts? Go ahead, Councilmember Manfredi.
Point of clarification for it, how much does it cost the city?
Nothing.
Thank you.
That is all. Well, so part of what we do, as you so often know, is we attend the National League of Cities and Towns. We had the opportunity to meet Ashley and learn about a little bit about her program, and while we were there, and had the opportunity to meet her back here and talk further on this specifics. We thought it would be a presentation to council would be beneficial. At the end of the day, this is something that we discussed, that Maricopa is a very new city still, and so a lot of that infrastructure is still very new. But that doesn't stop these problems from happening in a variety of ways, and it is something that it's and you probably don't like this terminology, but I think a lot of people understand it, is that it's kind of that gap insurance, right? Your homeowner's insurance stops here, and your line goes all over to the street and beyond the street, and furthermore, that's the responsibility of the utility company. And so people think, well, I'm never going to have a problem with that little portion, and so often that's where the problem lies, or the flooding in one's home for things that were done incorrectly by a contractor when the homes were built, and there's challenges with that from the way that those homes were built in such a fashion quickly due to the boom, and so some homes are built better than others. And so at the end of the day, I just didn't see any downside to asking Ashley to come present to council, and if it's council's desire to move this forward to an agenda item, to something that we can vote on if that's something we want to do. But ultimately, this is just it's something that's voluntary for each person to make that decision in their own home. We're just acting as a partner. So if you see there's value in that partnership, then let's move this forward. If not, then let's kill it today. So whatever you guys feel. Yes, Councilmember Smith.
I would suggest we move this on to a regular session.
Okay. Yeah, is everyone in agreement? Anyone disagree with that?
No, I agree.
Okay. All right, well, let's move that forward here for formal action. We appreciate it. Thank you, Ashley, for your presentation.
Thank you.
I don't know that we'll need you back, but we'll keep you
Sounds good.
Notified is what we need.
If not, I look forward to seeing some of you at the League of Arizona Cities and Towns Conference here. It's almost
Appreciate it.
already August, so.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it. Excellent. That takes us to item 3.4, the mayor and city councilors to hear a presentation and provide direction to staff on possibly restricting left turns from Desert Greens onto Smith Inc. Road. Bill, take it away. I have them working on it.
Mayor Price, members of council, back in about March, I was out of the country, and Josh Plum presented some information on this particular intersection, which had come to light for a variety of reasons. Unfortunately, I wasn't here. I watched it on video. There's a number of people who have hands in it. There was a number of things said, and there's some conflicting guidance. So we're coming back to council to clarify tonight what exactly is happening. This is the intersection to give everyone Desert Greens and Smith Inc. To give everyone just a frame of reference. It's the road right on the west side of the library. So if you're at the library and you want to come here to City Hall, most likely you go onto Desert Greens and make a left turn, and then come on Smith Inc. In fact, that left turn is the very thing that we were talking about. And there is a street view, and all right, I'm gonna go back one.
And just for your information, Bill, we're having some technical difficulties up here, so we're all looking at the screen behind us there. So.
Okay, yeah, because this is totally not me who screwed up the presentation. This must be the technical present. There we go. And then down there in the corner in the white is a plan view of the map. I had a commander in the military years ago who said to me, Bill, if there's a right way to shave and shower a cat, the Army has a regulation on it. Find that regulation, apply it, and move on. Similarly, on technical matters, there are national standards, not obviously on shaving, showering a cat, which the Army probably does have, but on things like signalization, striping, there's a lot of national standards. The engineering department makes hundreds of decisions on traffic control every time the plan set comes through. They are dictated by something roughly called warrants. There are about 25 or so warrants. The number changes. Some of them are just a combination of others. But these warrants really come down to how unsafe is an intersection and how cluttered is an intersection, how trafficked up, how crowded is an intersection. And then those warrants then dictate what type of traffic control at a minimum is required. In this case, a warrant study indicates that a stop sign is what is required, not necessarily a light. Although there are some situations where you cannot do more than a certain amount, there are certain situations where you can't do less than a certain amount, and then there are certain situations where you can only do a certain thing. In this case, you have to do I can't do less than a stop sign, but I could do more than a stop sign. In fact, we could go all the way up to signalizing the intersection. When the developer came through and redid this, we did a warrant study, and based on the warrant study, a stop sign was required, and that's what we required because that's what the warrants required. I've never known a developer to do more than is required. And to be fair to them, when I'm doing my own, I can't think of a situation where I've done more than is required either. In this case, based on the warrants, a stop sign is required. However, there's quite a bit. One of the tricks is there's the engineering raw numerical analysis, and then there's but I know that intersection and there's more problem there than the engineering analysis indicates. And there's been a number of people who have indicated that based on backups particularly, that there is some reason to possibly restrict left turns. It is possible to restrict left turns at this intersection. The option that has been requested to be considered is, should we either leave it the way it is with right and left turns allowed out of this intersection? It's not a through intersection. Is everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? It ends at a T at Smith Inc., so you've got to go either right or left. One proposal is to restrict left turns altogether and only allow people to make right turns. One proposal is to restrict left turns during certain hours. That is something we can do also. The first option, restricting left turns all the time, would require restriping of the intersection and putting up signs that say no left turn. The other option would require not restriping the intersection, but would include putting up signs that say, similar to the suicide lanes in Phoenix, no left turns during certain hours. And then the third option that is, as I understand it, that is up for consideration is to leave it the way it is, where you can make both a left or right-hand turn out of this intersection. Any of those, while we can't go below a stop sign, for example, to a yield sign, we could go to any of those restrictions on left turns if we wanted to as a city. We already have the signs. We have the no left turn signs we have in our inventory. We could put those up anytime. It would take a few weeks to restripe it. We have a standing on-call contract for a striping contractor. You approved it. Thank you very much. We could get them out in a few weeks, maybe a month or so, restripe the intersection and put the signs up. If we needed to put up signs that say no left turn during certain hours, we would have to order those. It's fairly fast. It takes a week or so. In fact, if we really needed them, I could just go down to Casa Grande and ask them to make me a few as a favor. But if we ordered them the appropriate way, it would take a week or two. They're not that hard to get. At that, I would ask for guidance about specifically what the city would like to see done at this intersection. Or I would ask council for guidance as to what we would like to see done.
Honorable Mayor, I would ask Bill, can you share information regarding what the warrants have reflected when they were conducted on this intersection, as well as the accident information that was collected?
Yes, sir. The warrants, it did not fail any of the warrants to require signalization, which is the next step up, or restriction of the left turn. So I don't have the specific, here's the warranted, but examples of warrants are relate to the number of accidents, the number of vehicles in a 4-hour window, the average wait time in certain 8-hour windows, that kind of thing. It did not fail any of those warrants, necessitating it. Realistically, probably if it had failed any of those, it might have required a signal. It did not require that. Since the intersection has been redone, there was only one accident, unless it's how I've been at Boy Scout camp for the last week and a half, so if there's another one that happened during that time, I don't know about it. But prior to a week and a half ago, there had been one accident, and it was what I would call a one-off. It was a teenager who made going to make a left turn, couldn't see the right direction because of a big car that was making a right turn, and thankfully, not like my teenage daughter has done, just said, well, I can't see, it must be clear, I'm going to go. It was at about, my understanding from Chief, is 10 or 10:30 in the morning, something in that ballpark. something in that ballpark, so it was kind of in the middle of the day. I shouldn't call it a one-off. It was a left turn, but it was not during one of the times when the intersection was crowded.
Thank you, Bill. So a couple of questions here. First off, if we suggested the kind of the compromise, if you will, the no left turns during certain hours, what are those proposed hours? Or are you asking us to set those proposed hours?
Through the mayor, members of council, that yes, that's the engineering standards that we apply to make these decisions all the time don't actually, we're outside of that. So it would kind of be what you want. I mean, I think that the implication would be during the most crowded times, and I could go back to the traffic impact and see if I could extract when the more crowded times are. I think clearly it's going to be during the school hours in the morning and the evening coming home time, something like, but really I'd be asking you that the national standards don't actually dictate any of that, so if you wanted something, we could accommodate it.
Okay, because I think that's going to be a big issue to figure out. I mean, if this is a safety-related issue that we're trying to reduce accidents from crossing those 4 lanes, turning left, then we need to know the most prone times where the warrants increase, in theory, based on the amount of traffic, right? The traffic volumes, because. But there's a subset to that as well. So I would ask that you get that information for us, because I'm not sure that. I don't know, I mean, council may decide differently tonight, but I kind of would like to know what those blocks of times are that we're proposing here. And secondly, my question is if that time block exists, let's just hypothetically say that it's from 3 to 6. And so from 3 to 6, we can't make a left-hand turn coming out of Desert Greens. If that's the case, then that forces everybody to turn right. So the next question is, well, what's the next left-hand turn that these folks can make a U-turn at and come back? Because that's what it's going to precipitate. It's going to precipitate a whole host of U-turns. And if you have a mile of people backed up, you know, in the left-hand lane, because the turn lane is not significantly long enough for 6, 7, 8, 10 cars that are trying to turn left there to come back around rather than go all the way down to, Smith Inc. and 347 and then flip a UE there or take some other variation or route, that's going to cause a problem too. So we haven't really solved the problem because we've only increased another problem. And so those are some of the concerns I have.
Through the mayor, members of council, that's exactly right. Presumably the two things, the traffic that cannot make a left turn will do most likely make a right turn and make a U-turn a half a mile down the road, or will wrestle their way back. If they're coming all the way over to White and Parker, some people will go back through the neighborhood.
Right.
It's not that convenient. They'll go back through Global Water, back in that area, and come back out through the islands. That's, in fact, what you have to do. Right. I guess you could go all the way over to 347 and down
Mr.
again.
Mayor.
But the presumption is, and based on my experience, this is correct, people coming out making their left turn will now make a right turn and will make a U-turn a little ways down the street.
Exactly.
And the design, the left turn bays are not designed
For that.
necessarily, although they may be over-designed right now. But they weren't designed with this direction of traffic in mind.
But again, we won't know that until we restrict a certain time frame, because if I'm thinking if we restrict it during a school time and all those folks that send their kids to charter schools that have to go pick them up, they all flood out at that 2:25 mark, and they're all trying to turn left out of Rancho El Dorado there and head up to go to Legacy, and Pathway and Leading Edge and all those others, that's going to be a problem, right? Am I correct in that statement? So anyways, Councilmember Smith.
Yes, I believe in our last conversation, we addressed the fact that really the safest thing to do is to continue going north on El Dorado Circle and taking a left right in front of Santa Rosa Elementary, which has a light. And it's just a matter of maybe a quarter of a mile north of the road that we're speaking of here tonight. So that's really the safest thing to do. A U-turn would be more dangerous. The safest thing to do is to go up to Santa Rosa, I can't remember the name of the street, and take a left and hit the light to take a left onto Smith Inc.
Through the mayor, Councilman Smith, yes, that's another option. Anecdotally, when this intersection was under construction just a couple months ago and it was blocked for left-hand turns, it was my experience that very, very few people did what you're recommending. The vast majority of people that I saw did what the mayor was suggesting, or what the mayor did himself, was to go down and block traffic and make U-turns. occasionally, sometimes, I think the mayor actually went over the median and did some things like that. But most people would not be so dangerous and break the law that way. But that said, it seems like what I saw was most people, I agree with you, most people were doing what he, I don't want to say suggested, but speculated would happen.
People are going to take the path of least resistance. I mean, certainly they can change their habits if they see that there's value to it. I mean, we did change the habits based on the fact that when we did it on Honeycutt, hitting, but I think that's a little bit different of a situation because of the two intersections. It's one intersection, but the two merge points there from Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, again, and 347, which is an arterial or an artery to the entire city, not an arterial. But that was a real problem. And you have 6,000 people trying to come down Honeycutt and one person trying to make a left-hand turn in the morning across that. It was just impossible because of the traffic patterns. And so I think that the problem that we see here is that once we restrict this, it's going to create a huge problem from, we're gonna solve one and we're gonna create another. And that's what worries me. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Chapados.
Bill, if we do go with one of the options that restricts left-hand turns, whether totally or at certain times, are public safety vehicles exempt?
They do whatever they want.
Through the mayor, Councilman Chapados, in general, post-safety vehicles are not exempt unless they have their lights on, at which time I think they can basically ignore all traffic control devices, but I would also defer to Chief Stahl.
Well, and yeah, I should have been more clear. I would suspect if they're responding to a call, it's going to be lights and sirens, so path of least resistance. But let's say that for Station 7-1, which is located on Porter, if they have a call in Rancho El Dorado and it's near Desert Greens, that puts extra wear and tear on the truck. It compromises other response times if they're dispatched from one scene to another call. I'm also very concerned about those people that are going to comply with the law and not do a U-turn and go up to the one that mirrors Province Parkway. That's through a school district. So the speeds are going to be reduced, and it's not going to be congestion, but it's going to be people that are in a hurry to get that left-hand turn done, but have to slow down 15 miles an hour during the school season. So I'm really not seeing a lot of benefits in changing it right now unless public safety comes back and goes, it's really becoming a hazard. There's a lot more accidents. If we've only had one, and Chief Stahl, if you want to weigh in, if there's been any more or any other concerns that you have from a public safety standpoint, or Chief Leffler, I'd like to hear them.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilwoman Chapados. I have no new information on accidents or anything like that. What you ask us to do as directors is to plan for the future, roadways included. This change in left turn came about because of the widening of Smith Inc. Not only the widening, but the increase in the speed limit. Crashes on 347 and Maricopa Casa Grande are at 35 miles an hour or less. Very few people, if any, are actually traveling 45 in this 45 mile an hour speed limit. So crashes are no longer just regular crashes, they're injury-related crashes or possibly fatalities. These are T-bone type intersections, so it's a 90-degree angle crash. Somebody's going to get hurt. My worry was not only for the increase of the speed limit, but the growth to the east of the lakes, where pretty soon you're going to have a whole lot more traffic traveling this road, trying to get out of Rancho El Dorado with an increased traffic to the east. As we plan for the future, that intersection right there at Porter is going to get a full traffic signal where people will be able to, instead of making that dangerous left turn, will actually be able to use the private property to go to the traffic control device and make their turn either east or west. My concern is not only just for the time being of the increased speed limit, but the increased growth to the east. That you pay me to predict the future, and predicting the future is this is going to be a fatal accident. That is, I believe that is why we're here, because it wouldn't have come to the topic if not for me at least bringing the issue to you guys.
Chief Stahl, is there any less of an accident that transpires when people are trying to take a U-turn? in that moment? I mean, they make a judgment call, they flip a UE right in front of oncoming traffic. Now, granted, they're kind of similarly going the same way at that point, right? But at the same time, you can hit the brakes, whatever, but if they decide to turn, it's a T-bone as well.
Mayor Price, to answer the question, I would restrict U-turns further down the road as well. There is no safe left turn. So I would, and again, I'm just playing the safety feature. For having to get there quickly and things like that, yes, this is a major inconvenience, there's no doubt about it. And many of you live in that jurisdiction. I'm just trying to keep you all safe. So what I would say is go down to Desert Parkway or Desert Breeze Parkway, make your right-hand or left-hand turn at the traffic control device. Don't try to make a U-turn at that intersection because that's equally as dangerous, so I would suggest putting on a left turn sign. That is being, unfortunately for all of us, the ultimate safety feature. Knowing, in fact, that not everybody's going to abide by it, but at least most people will.
Sure. Thank you. Chief Love.
Mayor Price, Councilmember Chapados, to answer your question, from a fire perspective, it's really not an issue for us. I would defer to Chief Stahl based on the safety concerns. We don't have an issue from our fire truck perspective. We'll simply follow whatever, traffic regulations are there to begin with. Unless it's an emergency call, then we'll pretty much go wherever we need to go. So I would defer to Chief Stahl.
Thank you. I think that my challenge with this whole decision is, well, I understand the safety concerns. I'm also trying to balance convenience issues, and clearly nobody wants to lose their life over a convenience issue. But the reality is that creates its own amount of anger out of it, and that has its own challenges and problems too. And so while I agree we're trying to predict the future here, Bill, you said that warrants can prove and go all the way up to a signalization or a light, but that creates a challenge because it's only 200 feet from the other light, 100 feet from the other light, whatever that is. So,
correction, Mayor, I said the warrants do not indicate a light. It doesn't stop us from putting one in, but they don't.
Right. That's what I'm referring to. Is that we could go all the way.
But I have seen some people do some crazy things at that intersection, especially during construction. And I feel like if they're going to do crazy, insane, against the rules manipulations during construction, they're most likely going to do some during a time period where we have a sign up that says they're not able to make a left-hand turn. So it's hard because of their crazy manipulations that they go through. But I don't want to see anyone fatally killed there either. I used to live in Rancho El Dorado and saw many serious accidents at 347 in Rancho El Dorado Circle. So at this point, I think I would like to put up a sign that said no left turns during 3 to 6 sounds reasonable to me. And it's not cast in concrete. If it ends up creating more havoc, we can adjust that decision.
Okay. Before we go to you, Councilmember Chapados, let's go over to Councilmember Wade.
I just have one quick question. How many accidents have they had at the intersection at all?
One.
One. In the entire time the intersections have been there?
Is it the entire time or the entire since it's been widened?
The entire recent time. I didn't hear the last part of what you said, but it's since the last traffic impact analysis, which I think was about a year ago, there's been one.
Okay, thank you.
Throughout the history of the intersection, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Chapados.
I'm okay with the hybrid. I think, it's going to fall to public safety to watch that intersection and let us know. But I'd also like to know their input on when they think the peak times would be, or if Public Works has some opinion. I'm not comfortable giving you a time frame because I don't travel that intersection a lot. But the other thing that Chief Stahl mentioned, if we do restrict it to left lane, I would like to see us add the no U-turn signs further down to the west on Smith Enke, so they can't make those U-turns until they probably get, through that whole area there. So I would like to see us add that no U-turn sign at Desert Greens, not Desert Greens, but Province Parkway, the one that mirrors it on the other side.
Okay, Council, we're kind of split on this, but we do have 4 suggestions to move this forward as a hybrid at this point. But we certainly don't have times at this moment, but that's where we lie. Let's go to City Manager and we'll go to Councilor Manfredi.
Mayor, if it's acceptable to you and the council, what I would like to recommend to you is for us to identify the peak hours where traffic is heaviest, to place a restriction for the left-hand turns during those peak hours when traffic is heaviest, to report back to you both in 90 and 180 days on the activity and any accidents that might occur there, or if none occur, we would report that information to you as well. And then make a decision after that 180-day period whether you want this brought back for further discussion and change, or whether you're comfortable with the direction and the signage that we place there.
So,
Go ahead, Councilmember Freddie.
so, Gregory, what you're saying is make the change before we decide on making the change?
No,
Before
Honorable
we
Mayor.
officially make the change?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Manfredi, what I'm suggesting is let's do a beta test.
Okay.
See if the restricting the left-hand turn doing non-peaks accomplishes what you're trying to accomplish. Get a report back to you based upon the facts after we have them regarding the non-peak hours and hopefully the lack of accidents that will occur at that intersection. And then make a decision long-term. This is how you want, this is what you want the signage to look like.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, actually. When I look at it, you know, I mentioned earlier when we first had this discussion that if we're going to restrict it, it should only be during peak times. I'm all for you guys deciding when peak time is. I'm not going to decide that, right? So you decide when peak time is, you let us know. I don't like the idea of the no U-turn in front of the province area, because then we're just forcing people straight down, and then eventually we're going to get people going over the median because they're so ticked off and they want to get to pick their kids up at whatever school they're at or whatever it is. So for me, making the no left turn is fine, I guess. I don't think we need the no U-turn signs on Smith Enke. And coming back to us in 90 and 100 days, I'm fine with that.
So if we go back to this beta test then, and we can agree to move it forward, I mean, certainly we have enough agreement to move this forward under the hybrid model. If we're going to beta test the hybrid, then we could also beta test the U-turns that are further down. We could do some amount of visual inspection or something that sees during those times what kind of backups are generating, what's happening there. Right? I mean, so before we make final decisions here, we could certainly take a look at that.
Through the mayor, members of council, there are national published safety standards, and it's what National Highway Traffic Safety Administration publishes, and that's what we follow, and as we do all the developers, as does ADOT, and it dictates what traffic control devices are required at. I would be hesitant to be bringing too many specific traffic control device and sign and speed limit and striping decisions to this body. Some of them we can't really vary. We're really, from a liability standpoint, stuck with. On a case-by-case basis, there are certain ones that for a variety of reasons get elevated here, and we have some discretion to move in. Right now, I'd like to recommend that we do, I guess, second the recommendation has been made that we focus just on this one, and if there's a problem and we have discretion, we can revisit that.
Well, okay, so for clarity purposes, though, I mean, are you saying that we put this in place, we beta test it, we have all these people turning right, and then they go down to this, there's a line 8, 10, 20 people deep, and someone comes down there at 45 miles an hour and starts creating crashes. We have more crashes along Smith Inc. by people parked in the left lane because somebody else was driving 45 and not paying attention than we have ever had at this particular intersection that we spent 30 minutes talking about. That wouldn't warrant us doing some sort of a change for it?
Sugar.
That would warrant us relooking at it, Mayor Price. Again, putting up signs based on opinions can actually increase our liability sometimes, and I'm not prepared to discuss the ramifications, engineering or liability of other signage decisions besides this one.
Sure, but I guess I don't understand, if you say no U-turn, how does that increase our liability? You're literally not allowing someone to make a left-hand turn,
Because
which is dangerous.
I'm not prepared to say that the national standard says we can put up a no U-turn sign. I don't know if it does or not. I wasn't prepared for that part of this discussion. And if we, as a body, decide to put up a no U-turn sign at a place where the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the national standard is we should allow U-turns, then I can I would defer to our county attorney, or our city attorney, that we would be dragged into the lawsuit for varying the national standards. And I'm not prepared to, I wasn't prepared to go into the individual signage
Sure.
outside of this
I
intersection
guess,
tonight.
and I understand that. I just don't understand how if we create 10 accidents and we've tried to solve an issue for one actual accident, that we wouldn't be allowed to fix the problem that's being created there because we caused it off of this one. I mean, it seems kind of like a domino effect.
Honorable
So
Mayor.
That's kind of the issue.
If we see through our monitoring process that backups are starting to occur at the next intersection up, then we're likely going to pull the signs and go back to where we exist today and make some recommendation to you based upon that. Then that'll give Public Works an opportunity to study, is it feasible to have a no U-turn sign there? But initially, what we will be trying to do is to resolve that conflict, traffic conflict. So we would likely pull the signs and report back to you that that recommendation, that action is not working as we thought.
So again, just for a recap, Council, are you okay with doing the beta testing so that we can have the data, so we can come back and have this discussion depending on where things actually happen, so that we really know what we're talking about here? Okay. Perfect. With that, I don't think we have anything else on this particular agenda. We've run over into our time to start the next one. However, we are having some technical difficulties up here, so Council, with your approval, we're going to take a 5-minute recess between this meeting and the start of the next one so that we can get IT up here so you can eat your cookie. Exactly. I would encourage everybody to eat cookies because they look really good. But with that, we'll go ahead and start our next meeting in about 5 minutes. So can I have a motion to adjourn, please? A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes.